Okay guys, Eddie's soldiers, it's the general here. And today on the Accessibility Army, I want to talk about something that I think is on everyone's mind and has been collectively going around the internet for years. And that is Gearbox Software's handling of the Duke Nukem intellectual property. In 2010, Gearbox Software acquired the rights to Duke Nukem, and in 2011, Duke Nukem Forever was released after being in development for 12 years. Naturally, the game couldn't live up to the hype that had been building over 12 years, and the game flopped. Now, we're not here to discuss whether or not Duke Nukem Forever was a good game. If you're looking at it as a Duke Nukem game and as a fan, it wasn't as bad as people make it out to be. But that's not what we're here for, as I said. And what we're here to discuss is how Gearbox Software has mishandled the property and how what we got was not the reboot or the return that Duke Nukem deserves. I don't like the way Gearbox has handled this property because the success of Borderlands has kind of gotten to their head, and as the years keep passing and passing, the more and more it seems like the only reason they bought the Duke Nukem franchise was to ship Duke Nukem Forever. And they were adamant that shipping Duke Nukem Forever was not the only reason they bought the franchise. However, as we see, that is indeed the case, because the best thing they've done over the years is re-release Duke Nukem 3D in a 20th anniversary edition. My point is that in the give or take 7 years that they've had the franchise, they haven't done anything with it. And every single time somebody who cares about the franchise tries to do something with it, they sue them for improperly using the franchise since they tried to make a game without permission. The best thing that happened to Duke Nukem in years was Bombshell in 2016. Now, you may be thinking, what does Bombshell have to do with Duke Nukem? The truth is that Bombshell started development as an isometric top-down Duke Nukem game with RPG elements. Isometric and top-down go like bread and butter with RPGs. So this game had a lot of potential, as it had John St. John once again reprising his role as Duke Nukem. It was going to be called Duke Nukem Mass Destruction, and it was going to be the best thing to happen to the king in years. However, soon after the game was announced, Gearbox announced that they had sued the developers of the game, which are Interceptor Entertainment, for improper use of the property's assets. Interceptor Games has since become the new 3D Realms, and after the lawsuit with Gearbox was settled, the Duke Nukem game was reskinned and it became Bombshell. I believe that since this game was already far into development when the lawsuit happened, Most of the assets were just reskinned to include bombshell aesthetics, and you can tell. I played Bombshell, and while I did have a good time with it, it was obvious that everything about it had Duke Nukem's DNA in it. The EDF, which is the organization that Duke Nukem works for, which is an acronym that stands for Earth Defense Force, was now rebranded as GDF and called the Global Defense Force. Bombshell Harrison's commanding officer is practically General Graves, who is Duke Nukem's commanding officer. Not a bad game, but it's also not its own thing. Duke Nukem's influence was seen in everything from the weaponry to the one-liners. At one point in the game, Shelly makes a comment that she isn't interested in dudes with sunglasses, an obvious jab at Duke Nukem. Why do I bring up this game? Because every time somebody tries to do something that has even a smidgen of potential with the Duke Nukem franchise, and it looks promising, Gearbox goes and sues whoever tries to make it. Why do they sue people who try to do something with their franchise if they obviously have no interest in doing anything? In 2017, a Gearbox employee was put on record as saying that Gearbox has no interest in doing anything with the Duke Nukem franchise. Now, I know many of you are going to sound off in the comments and say that Duke Nukem has no place in today's gaming atmosphere. My argument to that is simply, if Duke Nukem has no place in today's atmosphere where nostalgia for old school games is stronger than ever, then we may never have a new game featuring the muscle-bound hero. Serious Sam makes the strongest argument for the fact that Duke Nukem has a place in this world. And before you sit there and tell me that the last Duke Nukem game had no place here either, well, Serious Sam, the last entry, was released in 2011 and was actually better than Duke Nukem Forever. Now, if Serious Sam can have an iteration that ends up being better than the guy that is inadvertently responsible for Serious Sam's creation, that should tell you something. But so should the fact that there's currently a Serious Sam game scheduled to come out next month. This is another addition to the wave of nostalgic shooters. If you need any more evidence to support this argument, look at the recent resurgence in the Shadow Warrior franchise, another franchise created by 3D Realms that has seen a resurgence made by a different developer. If Lo Wang and Shadow Warrior and Serious Sam can have resurgences in their franchises in the same way that 2016 Doom revived the Doom franchise and Wolfenstein the New Order brought back BJ Blazkowicz, why can't they do the same thing with Duke Nukem? He deserves as much and has plenty of a fan base to prove it. If you need any more evidence to support this, all you have to do is look at 2018's Serious Sam 3 Fusion mod called Serious Duke 3D. The person who made this has recreated the entire first episode in Serious Sam 3 engine, complete with Duke's one-liners and other modern pieces that are used to make the game have more flair. This shows that there are still plenty of people out there willing to play a new version of Duke Nukem. So if these other franchises can be revived, why not Duke? As I said before, he certainly deserves as much. And for someone who was so adamant about how much they cared about the franchise, Gearbox sure as hell hasn't done much to prove it. Now, there is a more complex way in which you fix this problem, and it involves laws. To put it simply, when a company owns a franchise and they are stagnant, there should be rules in place that prevent them from holding on to a franchise without doing anything with it. For example, in the case of Gearbox and Duke Nukem, every time something shows up that is promising, they sue the people for improper use of the rights. I believe I said this earlier in this video. But a fix would be, if a company holds the rights to a certain franchise, they should have a 5-year limit to produce either a reboot or a new entry in said franchise. If within 2 years they are unable to show proof that they are working on a new entry or reboot, then the rights to that property should be up for grabs so that another company can take the reins and produce something, because it has happened time and time again with companies and the Duke Nukem franchise. Bombshell is just one example of Interceptor trying to produce a Duke Nukem game. The most promising one came in 2013 when they began to produce a next-gen remake of Duke Nukem 3D, complete with modern technology and the Unreal Engine. This was a particularly bizarre case because Gearbox had granted them a commercial license to produce the game, and it was looking promising. However, once Gearbox saw that it looked better and played better than Duke Nukem Forever, they immediately shut down the project. This is not fair. If another company shows care for your product and they do something that you couldn't, which could single-handedly revitalize that property, then instead of suing them, show support, especially if it happens after you have already given them a license. That's all I have to say on the topic, and Gearbox should take more care to support the people that believe in their franchises. The General signing off, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Platoon dismissed. Leave a like and support the channel. Let's get a conversation about this going in the comments. I know there are plenty of you who know that the king deserves better than what we've got. See you guys.